Hello, I'm here to say that we balanced the game by removing all the Rune 6th effect and implemented them as relics, but we chose the worst ones, so I guess that was a good decision. But anyway, I'm here now to defeat you, so you can progress through the story.
So first thing, I want to share my personal thoughts about the new Relic system. The idea was great, I loved it, everybody loved it. But the implementation was... poor. Out of 99 runes with good 6 passive effects, Anet picked this one.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the...
There are many underwhelming relics that been giving in the core game. So I thought the expansion relics will be better. Relic of Dagda. After using an elite skill, fire a projectile at the target or nearest enemy that damages and inflict conditions. The description sounds promising, so let's give it a shot. Really? To be honest, I expected more from the relic that I got from this lady who kept shooting nukes at me in the previous video. So let's hope Anet will do some balance to the relics, because right now there are only 3 or 5 out of 52 relics that are good to use because there are no other options, while the rest are just basically
complete and utter trash.
With that being said, let's start. I made a build video that all Revenant specs, Herald, Renegade and Vindicator, uses the same armor and runes. Rune of Tormenting is still the best one for Revenant specs since it's their main damaging condition. So the only thing we can add in this update is Relic of Akim. It inflicts 3 stacks of Torment and Confusion after using a CC skill, while the enemy has 6 stacks of Torment or Confusion, and that will be skill 5 in Axe for this Revenant build. As for elite spec weapons, the only spec that won't be using shortbow is Vindicator, because Vindicator needs a staff as a second weapon set for a backup to CC an enemy when needed, since Vindicator has no good CC skills like Herald and Renegade. So let me give a quick guide to each Revenant elite spec. So let's start with Vindicator build. The build is simple, always make sure to use these skills of cooldown. After using Scavenging Burst to generate quickness, make sure to spam dodges, because with this dodge trait you will generate these boons, and every time you dodge you will also increase the duration of the other boons that you already have. By spamming dodges of cooldown and with Celestial Gear, you will always going to have all these boons uptime. Dodge for Vindicator is everything, it's your source of boons and damage increase. Also, with Salvation trait line, every time you dodge, you will heal yourself, remove conditions, and generate buff that will reduce incoming damage by 15%. Also, as long you keep 5 unique boons uptime, every 3 seconds you will generate barriers to absorb more damage. That's what makes this build the strongest passive self-defense I ever made so far. As for damage, to deal damage with this build is pretty simple. Always use these skills of cooldown, and always use the Demon Stance elite skill to deal even more damage. As for Herald, the new expansion made it able to use shortbow to increase its DPS potential and able to fight from range. To have boons on Herald while in Dragon stance, make sure to keep these skills active to generate the important boons: Quickness, Might, Regen, and Protection. And to deal damage, always keep using your Demon stance elite skill and Dragon stance utility skills of cooldown to increase your damage. Renegade isn't tanky as Herald and Vindicator, but in return, Renegade has the highest DPS compared to its other specs, either in melee or range, and better cleave, also the ability to keep dazing mobs and forcing them from doing anything with Renegade utility skill Dark Razor. So if you want to focus on DPS increase and better cleave, Renegade is your best choice. That is all changes for Revenant specs. If you want to see DPS rotation, more guides and showcases, make sure to check the video links in the description.
Hopefully I'll get to actually join you in a fight one of these days.
The expansion was not in Bladesworn favor. The expansion removed the 6th passive effect from runes, which includes the 5% damage increase from Rune of Strength. And for some reason, Relic of Firework doesn't proc on Bladesworn, even though Bladesworn Gunsaber skills have 20-second cooldown. So I hope ANET will fix this issue soon, because right now, the only relics we can use for Bladesworn are Thief Relic and Defender Relic. Thief Relic increase the damage up to 5% as long we keep using weapon skills. Defender Relic heals for 5% of the maximum HP every time we block an incoming attack. And Bladesworn has a lot of Aegis skills to block incoming attacks. Check the description for more guides for this build. Berserker was able to generate 25 might stacks instantly before the expansion release, thanks to the old Aristocracy Rune passive effect. Now this effect is gone, but Berserker can still reach 25 stacks, but not as fast as before. We will use Aristocracy Relic for this build to reach the condition duration cap for both bleeding and burning, and to increase the duration of vulnerability, since this is the only viable relic to use in this expansion for this build. Berserker is a simple spec to use, only use your F1 skills while in Berserker mode to deal heavy burning damage, and the healing skill to remove the cooldown from F1 skills. You can use Short Bow 4 to CC an enemy and to give yourself stability to be immune from being interrupted. And finally, Headbutt Elite skill to activate Ender Pain skill to reduce all incoming power damage to 0. Please take a look at the description for more details. I made a Spellbreaker video that uses Celestial Gear to increase the boon's duration and to improve passive healing, since Spellbreaker has the lowest self-sustain compared to its other specs. Now in this expansion, Celestial Spellbreaker can reach 100% crit chance, thanks to the Rune of the Ranger. Now we can equip Hammer and Vrat Sigil to CC and deal more damage, since we use Defense Straight Line. The build is simple. You have to use your F1 skills of cooldown, and F2 to counter incoming damage to remove the cooldown from F1 skill. Spellbreaker damage increases and remove boons from enemies every time you use your CC skills. For those who don't have Celestial Gear, I made an alternative build that uses full Berserker gear, but it will do less damage compared to Celestial, since this version will use a Tactic Trait Line instead of Defense Trait Line, because without Tactic Trait Line it won't be able to hold 25 might stacks, and it will be really squishy with low self-sustain, since Berserker doesn't have healing power stats to improve the passive healing. And finally, Willbender. Willbender is the only Guardian Elite spec that can use all the F skills to deal heavy damage and sustain itself at the same time without any consequences, and it has access to Alacrity to recharge all offensive and defensive skills. Since there are no good relics in this expansion to improve burning builds, we will use Defender Relic to give the build more passive sustain. As you can see in this showcase, I can face tank to deal heavy burning damage on this tier 3 boss, because I have 3 healing sources, the healing skill that converts the damage into healing, Bow of Truth to drop heal pulses, and the F3 skill to generate Aegis to block incoming attacks that will trigger the relic to heal in the process, as long as you keep dealing damage. That is everything for Heavy Armor Specs update. Make sure to check the description for more details and join my Discord if you have any more questions.